Um, so we are here, School of Celebrancy, this evening. This is the second of our monthly live broadcasts, and the subject for this evening is ceremonies for work and for working life. So oops, I'm just going to see how I make this go away. Oh, hello Esther. So yes, ceremonies for working life. Hi Sandy. So we've got Esther joining us from the USA, Sandy from Stratford, Ontario. Yeah, so yes, working life. I don't know about all of you in your part of the world, but certainly here where I am in the UK, it's one of the first questions that people will ask when they meet for the first time, is usually, after the initial niceties, people usually ask, so what do you do for a living? And our working life obviously takes up a huge amount of our time and energy, and it becomes a big part of our identity for a large part of our life very often. And yet in today's world, it's not something that is commonly supported or affirmed by any kind of ceremony. Our entry into work isn't often accompanied by ceremony. There are a few exceptions, of course. I'm thinking about things like the military, where there'll be certainly a ceremony when people have completed their training, there's not often any support with that big transition at the end of our working life when we retire from work. And as with most areas of our life when connected with this work of celebrancy, it hasn't always been this way. Certainly, here in Britain, there would have been, and there are records of, ceremonies that people would have undergone to begin their working life. Certainly in the crafts and the guilds. So there would have been guilds for things like, shoemaking or leatherwork or carpentry, and it would be a rite of passage to train in those crafts, and then there would certainly be a form of initiation when people had completed that training. Just nice to see a few more of you signing in, including a few names that I recognise of current students. Laura, it's lovely to see you joining us from Ireland. I think I was looking at something of your submissions on School of Celebrancy just today. So yes, this subject really came around quite serendipitously, really, that when I was about to start these School of Celebrancy live broadcasts, I got in touch with our few hundred students first of all, with our graduates who'd completed our School of Celebrancy courses, to let them know that this was happening. And part of my intention for this has always been, to make contact with you all. And here's another one, John McKeon, and it's lovely to see you here too. I think there's a bit of a lag, by the way, between you writing your messages and me responding. And just at that time when I had reached out to our students, Britta got in touch with me to say that she had been asked to conduct a retirement ceremony and it obviously wasn't something that we'd covered in the courses, and she just wondered if I had any ideas or suggestions about that, and I did have a few, and I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to now find Britta and bring her in to join the discussion. The picture that I used for this evening's event, of course, I'm sure that most of you recognised, was the gold watch, which is that's the extent of the classic retirement ceremony, is that there would be a little gathering and maybe a raising of some glasses and a presentation of a gold watch or some other form of symbolic gift to recognise somebody's work and service. But that doesn't really give that person any real support with that transition. Okay, hopefully I've now got Britta on the line. Britta, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine.
That's great. And if people are listening, hopefully you can hear Britta's voice. She's now next to us on the phone. So we got there in the end in some form. Thank you so much, everyone, for waiting. So now, without further ado, I'm going to ask you, and thank you to Britta for your perseverance in joining us. And I'm just going to ask you to tell me, first of all, about who you were asked to conduct this retirement ceremony for.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, people from Switzerland, hello and thank you. I was doing this ceremony for a lady I didn't know, and a friend of mine had given her a voucher for a ritual, and it was a ritual so she decided to have a ritual for her retirement. She's 64. She's been, do you want me to say something about her as a person, River?
Maybe it's interesting to know, what work she was retiring from.
Okay, yes, she was leading a school that offered sort of prep courses to get into our A-level plus schools. So she had 90 people working for her, giving lessons to students. She was the manager of that school, but before that, she'd been a mother and a homemaker for a very long time. Her husband left for a younger model. Her daughters also moved out by now, so she was on her own. And she started going back to work, back to training, and back to have a short career. And now she retired.
Yeah. And so when we first spoke about this, you were asking me if I had any experience of this, and it's not something that I have ever had any experience of, although now that I awake to the idea of a retirement ceremonies, I really hope that it's something that I will get the chance to conduct. But I remember, that the first idea that came to my mind about it was to think about the harvest. And for me, that's a really great example of how nature-inspired ceremony and the way that we work with ceremony and druidry can feel really relevant and meaningful for people who don't necessarily share our path. So this lady wasn't somebody with much experience of ceremony, was she, Britta?
Not at all. She didn't have a clue what a ritual is, or she's also in no way religious or spiritual. It was completely alien to her, but it worked wonderfully because it's such a universal language. Like you say, the elements speak to everyone, and ideas like harvest, cutting, looking forward. So this threefold structure of the ritual that we discussed and that you gave me ideas, that worked beautifully.
Okay, so the threefold. Yeah, let's reel back a little bit before we get onto that threefold structure. And by the way, just to let you know that there's a few people. Thank you very much, people who are saying that they can hear you loud and clear and you sound great. So just so that you know that.
Great, thanks.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you did the preparation? So the first thing was you've been put in touch with this lady. What was your next step? You know, how did you prepare with her for this ceremony?
Obviously I went to see her to get to know her, and I was quite nervous, and this was the most time and thought intensive bit, the whole preparation and the listening to her, listening really what her topics are at this point in her life, in order to then design a meaningful ritual. So I stayed at her place nearly 2 hours, and we chatted, and I had a few questions, just gentle questions about her biography and what brought her to this point. And I also made very clear that this wasn't an event and afterwards everything would be easy or everything would be solved.
Yeah.
I didn't want to expect complete magic, although magic happens. But I also made clear that I'm not a therapist.
Yeah.
And that we would just mark this moment in her life and honor it and give it a space and thought, and that she liked that, and she started actually opening up. She was a bit uptight first, and I mean, she was not used to talk about herself at all.
Yeah.
And I just waited, and eventually she talked a bit, but during the ritual then, much as later, that happened.
Okay, so you worked out the plan for the ceremony with her. Yeah, how much of the plan did you put together with her at that first meeting, or did you then send her a plan of the ceremony afterwards, or how did that actual structuring and planning come together?
I had the structure in the back of my mind, and I didn't put it in front of her in detail. I suggested a few things. I said, how would you feel about cutting as a symbolic gesture of what you're leaving behind? And she said, yes, I would very much like to cut something. And I made a few suggestions, and basically she liked them all. And then I said, I will go away and think about it and send you a slightly more detailed plan, but not with everything, not giving away everything.
Okay, so that it was going to be for her some sense of, she knows what some of the elements that are going to be involved, and she knows what it's for, but you're going to be leading her through a process, and you've kind of established that
precisely
that trust between you at that meeting. So,
and it was easy because really she basically trusted me completely and let me lead her.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be sure that the elements we would use, she would feel comfortable. That's why I talked about them beforehand. Yeah. I don't know if she had an aversion against potted plants. I wouldn't give her a potted plant.
Yeah. So what were what were the 3 stages that you structured the ritual around?
Well, I have to say that we did it in the woods, in a very secluded, beautiful, beautiful spot, and it was 4 parts really. The arrival was also the first part.
Oh yes, can you say a little bit about how you chose that place? And I think I remember when we talked about this before, you said that you did ask her if she wanted to do it inside or outside in nature.
Yes, it was clear that she wanted it outside, but not too close to her place, where people might walk by who she knew. So I went round and round, and I spent a lot of time finding that place, and now I found it. I will use it again. And then when we walked there, she said, oh, I remember I used to come here a lot when I was little with my dad on Sundays. Wow. That was such an amazing coincidence, closing the circle, returning when she finished work to where she used to go with her dad when she was a child. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. You wanted to know how it was structured?
No, that's great, because I just asked about how you chose the place, and then yes, tell me about the three, or tell us about the 4-stage structure you said.
Yes. I'd built a kind of an entrance into it. Was a circle, and first I sat her down on a nice mossy rock in the north to have her arrive and breathe and empty her head, and I even cleansed her with some incense and said, welcome, this is your space, and everything that's said here is welcome. You can't say anything wrong, and it will stay here when we leave. To reassure her, and took some time with that. And then we started with the first part, which was...
Just to interrupt you, Britta, briefly, just to say that Laura's saying that sounds lovely, and that does sound so lovely. The way that you welcomed her into the space, and the space itself, just sounds, really lovely.
Yeah.
And then?
We looked back, or I asked her to close her eyes and think, what is she leaving behind? And I had sort of started some sentences which I asked her to finish. I said, I won't regret, and she finished the sentence, and after every sentence she would cut a piece of purple, very beautiful wide ribbon that just fell to the floor. Mm-hmm. Or I might miss, or I'm sorry to lose, things like that, positive and negative. I'm glad no longer to have to do this or that. Just things that she leaves behind, that she's glad to leave behind, and that she's a bit wistful to leave behind.
Yeah, I love that. So it was all things that she's letting go of, but you're really inviting her to. You were really inviting her to have that full range of different emotions. So some things that she was really relieved to to let go of, and others that were really hard and a bit painful to let go of. And did you do you remember if you had a particular order of those things? Did you do the harder ones first, or do you remember which order you did that in?
I did the easy ones first.
Okay.
I'm glad to be rid of this or that. I did the easy ones first.
That's nice.
And after a while, I didn't have to do the prompts anymore, and she would just think about it and then cut off another piece of ribbon, maybe say something, and sometimes just cut a piece and not say anything.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I could really feel her sort of gliding into the space and settling a bit. Yeah. It's weird if you do that for the first time in the woods with a strange woman.
Yeah.
It's to most people who've never done this, it's a weird thing to do. But she really relaxed and started really enjoying it as well.
Yeah, it sounds like an unusual thing to do. Let's not say weird, but let's say unusual.
Yeah.
Although we could use weird in its positive sense, but yeah, but it also does sound like a really powerful thing to do as well. It sounds like you know, and it's strangeness and its unusualness and it's the fact that you're creating this space that's both, you know, physically and symbolically, you know, very different and separate from everyday life. You know, that's what ritual space is really, isn't it? As we mark this space and say this is different and separate from everyday life, and what we do here in this space has very special significance and resonance. So yes,
I forgot before she sat down, I walked with her once around the circle, and then I asked her again to walk the circle slowly and with every step leaving behind what was before earlier on the day.
Okay.
So just I didn't mention, you know, the significance of east or west or symbols, just that we're in a circle and that is our space. That was all. Yeah. Really. But that was before even she sat down to breathe and connect with the brown.
Yeah.
And then
it sounds very, very spacious and very nurturing, the way that you welcomed her into the space. You know, that giving her time to do that slow walk, and then that kind of settling her on the rock and giving her that sort of real permission to you know, that sounds lovely. And then she did the cutting, and then the second part, after looking back, we went round round the whole circle and then to the west. I didn't have to explain this is the west, that was just for me. Yeah.
The southwest, the Lunasa, and there I gave her a little pouch, and I held a beautiful bowl full of hazelnuts, and I asked her to think about not what she's leaving behind, what she just cut off, but what she's taking with her, not just from her work time, from her time as a manager of the school, but from all the last six and a half decades. What's the continuity and the harvest and the wisdom, the little nuggets of precious experiences that she will take with her. And so she could just pick a hazelnut from the bowl and put it in her pouch and say something about it or not say something about it. And that was very moving, because a lot of things came to her mind, things she's very grateful for. Also, in spite of the divorce and everything, she's grateful for the time spent with her husband and the two daughters they had. And she started to cry, and that was all right. So she gathered, looking back, all this harvest and putting lots of hazelnuts in her little pouch. And it was much more than just the last 15 years in this workplace, in the school.
Okay. It was...
she was she's very grateful for her life and everything she received, all the gifts.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah. And you gave her the pouch to keep the hazelnuts. Do you know what she was going to do with them afterwards?
I don't know about what she's going to do with them. I just said, that's your gift, keep it, and occasionally, you know, you can take out the hazelnuts, or you can eat them, or you can think about them. So it's that there's a real, as listening to this, I don't know about others of you who are listening, but as I'm listening to this, I'm just getting a sense of it being a really quite deep and moving ceremony. it was also, I'm always surprised in the circle. You know, you think maybe beforehand, I'm going to say this, or I want to make that point, and then you just open your mouth and something entirely different comes out.
Yeah.
Once you stand in the circle.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm sure she hadn't been thinking about all that.
Yeah.
But it just started coming out, and that was the magic. That was really,
yeah,
that was beautiful. I felt very honored to share that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was a fourth stage to the ritual after the harvesting.
Yeah. Then she had her pouch with the rich harvest, and we went round the circle again, and then we went to the east, and we looked forward to what's ahead, what lies ahead, and all this. I had various images, like an empty canvas that she now can paint.
Yeah.
Because she's in good health, and she's financially okay-ish, or like a lump of clay that she can now make whatever she wants. You know, she can make something. She can draw notes of a piece of music, whatever. I had a pot of earth, and I had some pea seeds.
Yeah.
You say seeds. And I gave her the bag of seeds, and asked her to take her time and just plant all her hopes and wishes into that pot. No matter how unreal or fantastical they might be, or also very pragmatic or very clear, but that she could plant whatever she wanted in that magic pot.
Yeah.
And that was more difficult. And looking back, she thought for a long time, what am I going to do now? What shall I do with all this time ahead of me? I mean, it's not that a lot of people want her to get involved immediately here or there, but for the first time in her life, she could actually say, I do have time, but actually, I don't want to.
Yeah.
She could say that for once in her life. You know, I'm not interested. I want to do something else for myself. So I had encouraged her a bit in our talk, in our preparation talk. And then she planted the seeds, and tears flowed again. And she said many things. She said, I might, maybe I'll meet someone again. Probably not, but maybe. And lots of, maybe I will have grandchildren, and I hope, or I wish for all these things, and start another small business. Lots of, a lot of things came out, also creative things that she might want to start. And she doesn't have to look after her parents. They are both, what do you say, passed away?
Yeah.
They both died. Yes, and then she just stood there with this pot where I gave her the pot in the end after she put all the seeds in it.
Yeah.
And she was quite, a bit overwhelmed that she had dared to ask for so many things for herself, I think.
Yeah.
She's just really not used to that, to think of herself.
And then how did you bring the ceremony to a close?
Then we went to the south, and there's a little plateau of stone, and I had gathered some wood, and we made a little fire, and we sat by the fire and had tea and cookies.
Lovely.
to come down to ground again.
Lovely.
And and just to let her talk about it, and we sat for a while quietly there.
Yeah.
Quite a long time, and she was very good at making fire. She was a scout.
Oh wow.
So she was really keen on getting the fire working. That was nice.
Yeah.
And then we walked back, and she said goodbye. And I was completely elated that it had worked so well.
Beautiful. And Britta, it really strikes me that this is a really good example, this ceremony, of what it actually means to hold space. Because sometimes it can seem that like ceremonies are about us as celebrants talking and, you know, saying things on people's behalf or leading people through something. Well, you, in a sense, you were leading her through, but it really sounds like a lot of the time you were holding that space for her to sort of lead, you know, to find her own path through that ceremony.
Yes, and if there's only two of you, I think that's the obvious thing to do, and it's not like a wedding or a funeral. It's only two people, so you have a lot of space for the person. And I did talk some at the beginning. I did a short invocation. I asked for a blessing on her and on her future and on her health and everything, and on our ritual. But I didn't, in between, I just reassured her at each stage, but I didn't do that much talking.
But you did the blessing out loud.
Yes.
And did she have any kind of questions about that? You know, about you know, how you were doing the blessing, or did it make sense for her, or how do you think she received that? I'm just wondering.
I didn't call any goddesses or gods, and I had asked her, is it okay if I ask for a blessing for our ritual? And she said yes, that would be nice.
So I guess like we were talking about in last month, it's just that sense that a blessing can just be the real expression of your highest intent, you know, to really focus and shine that beam on the occasion.
Yes. That's nicely put. Shine that beam on the occasion. Yes. And feel also for myself, feel supported.
So did you have any feedback from her afterwards?
She wrote and thanked me very much, and she also thanked her friend who'd given her the voucher for the ritual. So many times she thanked her.
Oh, how lovely.
And I'm actually going to stay with that friend for a month now, because my house is a building site. And so I'll see her again. Nice. If she wants. So it'll be interesting. I just heard that she has that she's been very determined and feisty these last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Very much unlike her, and apparently she took a major decision, but I don't know what it is. She'll tell me.
Okay. Wow. So.
And she confronted her ex-husband. I hope I haven't really pushed her too far, but something happened. Something definitely shifted. Something
shifted, and I don't know about others with us listening, but certainly for me, just the vision of this ceremony happening in this sort of secluded woodland space, I just can't imagine that you would have been able to create or draw in that same kind of magic if you were, I don't know, indoors in a ordinary building or a there's something about it. The space itself seemed to bring a lot to your ceremony.
I was so glad she immediately wanted to do it outside.
So I'm just wondering if we've got 11 people with us on the live feed at the moment, and I just wonder if any of you have any more questions for Britta about the retirement ceremony there, or any thoughts of your own about what you might wish for yourself, or what else you might want to offer to somebody at a retirement ceremony. Or I'm also starting to think about for somebody starting a new job, how might we structure a kind of personal ceremony for them? Or also, I was thinking as well at one point when you were speaking, Britta, about did you ask her, was it always a given that it was going to be something that you were going to do as a sort of private ceremony, just you and her, or did you ask her whether she might want anyone else to witness it?
Yes, I did ask, but she was very clear that it was going to be just her. And I did a renewal of vows, and the couple did want a witness there with them. I did another one-to-one ritual for the menopause with a woman. She didn't want anyone there, so I always ask, but people know immediately whether they want someone there or not.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Britta, for coming in and sharing that experience with us. And it certainly makes me feel that I want to give away some celebrancy vouchers. I love that idea just as itself as well. What a lovely thing to offer. And I'm just thinking about sometimes people have raffle prizes, to raise money for charity, and occasionally you get contacted and somebody says, can anyone donate some prizes for a raffle? I'm just thinking the next time that something like that comes my way, I might offer a celebrancy voucher and put some ideas with it, on what kind of ceremonies people might like to have, that they might not have thought of, including, a blessing on a new job or new project, or a retirement celebration. So we are already at 9:15, so I'm going to please feel free to stay on the line, Britta, and we can maybe speak afterwards, but I want to bring the live. I've just read you some of the comments that are coming up, Britta. Sandy said, a letting go of past and empowering for the future. And John said he really likes the idea of gathering in her harvest, so powerful. And Esther says that sounded like a powerful experience for both Britta and the retired woman. And Sandy said, what an amazing thing to do, to acknowledge a change in a person's life and mark the change. Truly a gift in the most natural way. And Carol says, voucher, brilliant idea. So yes, there might be a few of us offering these celebrancy vouchers.
Thank you. Okay.
I want to complete our our live broadcast with a blessing. You know, last month we had beautiful blessing from Adam, and I'd been talking about when we talked about the art of blessings, I'd been talking about John O'Donoghue's wonderful Benedictus book, and he has got a blessing here for work. So I'm going to read this blessing for work, and I would like everyone to invite everyone listening, whether you're listening here and now with us on Tuesday evening, or whether you're watching and listening here at another time. I'd just like to invite you to take a moment to just settle yourself where you are. Perhaps feel your feet on the ground. Just feel conscious of gravity, conscious of this earth beneath us, and it's beneath all of us, wherever we are, whenever we are. And conscious of this sky above us, that's above all of us, wherever we are and whenever we are. And I would like to invite you perhaps to take a few breaths from the heart. You might even like to place your hands on your heart and just to welcome in this blessing, A Blessing for Work by John O'Donoghue. May the light of your soul bless your work with love and warmth of heart. May you see in what you do the beauty of your soul. May the sacredness of your work bring light and renewal to those who work with you and to those who see and receive your work. May your work never exhaust you. May it release well springs of refreshment, inspiration, and excitement. May you never become lost in bland absences. May the day never burden. May dawn find hope in your heart, approaching your new day with dreams, possibilities, and promises. May evening find you gracious and fulfilled. May you go into the night blessed, sheltered, and protected. May your soul calm, console, and renew you. So, thanks again everyone for joining us. Thank you especially for your patience with the technical hitches at the beginning, and I'll see if I can either edit the video or at least put a little note to tell people to skip forward to when we get started on the good bit. And I hope that some of you will join us again next month. I can't remember the date of it off the top of my head, but the last Tuesday in May, when I'm going to be joined by Harriet Nuvera, who's going to be we're going to be talking about ritual for the Anthropophacine. So really about how we can work as celebrants to find ways of meeting what's going on in the world at the moment with our climate and environment crisis, how we can find rituals and ceremonies that can help us move forward through these times. So yeah, much love to all of you, and hopefully bright blessings on everyone, and hopefully meet you again here. And lots of people, Britta, are saying thank you and sharing their blessings with us too. Thank you so much. Blessings to you, Britta, from John.
Thank you very much. Sorry I wasn't technically better equipped, but thanks for inviting me and for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks so much for coming, and thanks for your perseverance, Britta. Okay, I'm going to close the live broadcast now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.